As a movie production wins the box office and the fans, the production companies usually order a couple more movies, sequels. The habit is to produce 2 more movies, which is also known as a trilogy. The trilogies are often thought of as comic book movie stuff. Well, that's for sure a true fact. As for non-comic movies, it is a chance for continuing with our beloved characters even further, and for production to make more money out of it. It's a win-win. Sadly, that wasn't what happened with movies on this list, as they never made it to the 3rd. If you do enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you want to be notified every time we do post a video, hit the bell, and you'll have some of the very best movie content drop straight to your phone. The Amazing Spider-Man. The web-slinging, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man was first introduced to the big screen through Sam Raimi's trilogy back in 2004. It kept going till 2007. 5 years later, Sony decided to reboot it and bring another adaptation to life, with the first movie hitting the box office with $758 million on a budget of $230 million and some relatively good reactions from the fans. The company said, "A trilogy? Why not?" Sadly, the next one came to life as a disappointment. It was far from good, both critically and financially. 2 years later, the web shooter came back with a different actor, different world, and a different universe. The Andrew Garfield's version, fans might never forgive Sony for that. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like his predecessor on the list, the popular characters also from comics were offered a first chance. But, on the contrary, neither the first nor the second were a success. The first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie trilogy was ever in 1990. Although the first one was a big hit, the performance started to go low in the second and the third. For one reason or another, this trilogy came to an end. About 2 decades later, Paramount decided to reboot the series and give it a second chance, and also to win some cash and corporate with Nickelodeon. They started Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014 with a box office grossing of $493 million. Then gambled with the second in 2016 sequel named Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Despite getting bad feedback for the first, finally they decided not to have a third after the second came with less than 50% less grossing with increased budget. Unlucky trilogy of unlucky turtles. Jack Reacher. Going from the beginning as a not fit for the role, we should have seen this coming. Let's head back 9 years, exactly in 2011 when the famous actor Tom Cruise was casted for the role of the best-selling Jack Reacher's novel's character. The fact that he wasn't the same as the character physically was enough for complaints from the fans. Although the novel writer Lee Child never talked bad about Cruise's portrayal in the 2 movies that was made, Jack Reacher 2012 and Jack Reacher Never Go Back in 2016, according to the BBC, he stated on the cancellation of the trilogy that he wasn't convinced to. Although the first installment was a big box office gross, the second wasn't pretty much the same. Now, this project is going to be rebooted into a series instead, hopefully with a more physically fit actor. John Carter. Considered to be one of the most expensive movies of all time, together with a box office bomb. This movie probably can never be an honorable mention at all. Unlike the rest of the list, this movie never even got to the second before the trilogy was canceled. Based on Edgar Rice's Burroughs, A Princess of Mars, the first was the Barson series novel. Came the idea of the movie and they made it. But what was the problem? With an estimated loss of $200 million for Disney's live-action division, John Carter never made it to another movie, mostly because of the disappointment and the loss, while The Avengers, also in 2012, made over $1 billion with less budget. And if you ask about the trilogy plans, they were actually plans, titles and plots for the next 2 movies. But you can only dream of them. Fantastic Four. Unluckily, this one never got it right. The first live action of the Marvel comic book team was in 1990. Horrible as it was, the producers decided not to let it out. 15 years later, the first Fantastic Four movie by Fox was in cinemas. Despite not being a blockbuster, the movie wasn't bad either. A $333.5 million gross over $100 million budget is something we can fix, or so they thought. After the next movie in the trilogy, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer in 2007 was in a challenge with big movies such as Transformers and Pirates of the Caribbean, and it actually lost. 8 years later, with persistence, came John Trank's reboot in 2015, and yet lost again. Is it really bad luck? Trons. This one is even older. There is no shame in working on works that may have failed years ago and turn it into blockbuster. Well, that didn't happen here. The first movie of the franchise kicked. It didn't really make money at the time, $26 million out of a $17 million budget. That was indeed a big bomb. In 2010, the second movie came from Disney as Tron: Legacy, spending $200 million on the movie. The Big Mouse Company regretted that decision, although it wasn't that bad. A total of $572 million is not that bad. But like the decision they made later about John Carter, let's do more business with Marvel. Hellboy. Finally, we have another comic book movie. Although it's not a Marvel or a DC character, it had a good reputation. But why not complete it? A combination of a good actor like Ron Perlman and some cash on the budget were enough for critics, but the production said no, as it was a $66 million budget for a total of $158 million gross. Revolution Studios then gave the rights up to Universal to make the second in the sequel, Hellboy: The Golden Army. It made even better money and reviews. So far, it's good. But after exceeding $160 million, the sales dropped off, and with a $120 million budget, it was so hard to make a third. But Lionsgate took the rights and made a fresh 2019 movie that was one of the company's worst mistakes ever. With a $44 million plus bad reviews on a $50 million budget. If there's a lesson to be made out of this list, it would be that consuming the product and making more and more of it out to profit or trying to push it isn't always paying off. I also wouldn't say it never works. After all, there are other successful trilogies, aren't there? Tell us in the comments about what you think, and don't forget to subscribe.